Welcome back, everyone. Today we have Mark Hall back again for a part 2 interview. Can you give us a very brief recap about who you are before we move on to the questions?
Yeah, sure. Name's Mark Hall. I worked on LittleBigPlanet PS Vita, LittleBigPlanet 3, DLC, and Sackboy.
So the first question that I'd sort of like to ask, and this deals with the pod in LittleBigPlanet 3. And I'm laughing because it may be tough to remember the reasons behind this. You may not have even been around for this, but do you happen to know who suggested the idea of changing the pod bus back into the original pod? Did Steven do it?
Oh, that's interesting. I don't remember, mainly because when I joined, it was probably like, I want to say like November 2013. And when I joined, it was the old one, but when I arrived at Sumo, it was the old one, the bigger one. And then when I joined the project in November, it had turned back. So it was kind of before I even got on the project. I am honestly not sure what the reasoning was to change it back. I think it was just that maybe the really big one was like just an experiment. It was never fully tested. I know there was maybe some like camera issues and things like that. So maybe it was just a fun test that never really went anywhere. So I can't really say more than that.
That's fair. Why were there so many glitches left in LittleBigPlanet 3? For example, the Changenator to bypass DLC locks. Why did they patch the pod glitch 10 times, but not that?
I think it was primarily, when bugs come in, any bugs that are inputted, they usually have a priority. So they're usually like, we call them P1, P2, P3, or P4. So P1 is like game breaking and needs fixing. But usually priorities are done based on like how frequently they will be seen, how easy they are to reproduce, all these sorts of things. And obviously with a game like LittleBigPlanet, particularly at LBP3, it had a really extensive backlog of issues. And probably it was just a case of the pod related ones, because everyone that plays loads into the pod, everyone has a chance of seeing these things, particularly if it was a case of, I think there was something about maybe people could load into other people's pods and cause it to happen. So I think it was just a case of that it was way more frequent and people were breaking other people's games and things. So I think that was just a really big priority case. Whereas something like the character, what was it? Sorry, the
Changenator bypassing DLC locks.
I'm not sure what that exact bug was, but I think it was just a case of that maybe that didn't break as something as hard, or it wasn't like maybe it was like a more of a soft break than like a hard break. Like it was, it wasn't causing like super a lot of damage or anything, so it just was put more into the backlog.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great answer. Do you know why LittleBigPlanet 3 corrupted a lot, and did you ever corrupt? If so, can you recall frustrating moments where you corrupted, say, while in the middle of working on something important?
Well, I will say that with any game, any game development has different types of file sharing. So like, obviously when you're developing a game, it's really important not to lose work. So for instance, like a lot of save files and stuff are saved in like a really big file system that is shared between everyone, so that, you know, if I'm working on something, you can grab it really easily and all that sort of stuff. So it's not like when we are creating and that it's saved locally on our PS5 or whatever, PS4, PS3. Oh my god, it was that so long ago. We're on PS3. So it's like saved remotely and anyone can grab it. I think the issues was why people were seeing stuff corrupt so much was to do with your save data, something like that. It was reaching its maximum. It was reaching its maximum capacity, and if you went over, it often corrupted. So like I know that a lot of like adventures and stuff like pushed it to full capacity and things like that. So it was oftentimes that people had too many things, like people had too many save objects, people had too many custom objects and community things, and it kind of all adds up into your profile. I think it was something to do with that, but I could be wrong, but I think that rings a bell.
Moving on, does LittleBigPlanet 3 use source textures for stuff?
If you're talking about the textures and things, they were upscaled for LBP3, particularly for PS4. Everything was kind of upscaled to make it just look better on PS4. So and even a lot of the assets and stuff had to be remade because particularly LBP1 related things, they were so small.
Now, about level design, how did you plan level design? Did you have a concept phase prior to grayboxing where you brainstormed and fleshed out all of your ideas, maybe on a sketch pad or something, or on a Wacom tablet, say?
Well, I mean, a lot of people, it depended on the level designer really and how we worked, but a lot of people just worked differently in their own way, however made them feel inspired. So, but we usually did something called motifing, which I think is a sumo phrase. I'm not sure if other companies use that, but we've used it forever. I still use it today. So, but yeah, we call it motifing. But the idea was a motif is sort of like a chunk of gameplay. It's like an idea of gameplay. So, you know, a motif might be something just like Sackboy jumps 3 times across some platforms, and it's like, that's a motif, and you know, you can add some collectibles, you might add some prize bubbles, all that sort of stuff. But that chunk is then you play it and it feels good, and you then basically the idea was you take all of the motifs that you like, and then you would make a grey box out of them. So you would basically have your start, have your end, and then you kind of like stitch them all together into a layout using the ones that you thought felt best. So that's kind of the lead up to a full grey box layout, is that kind of motifing phase, and it's just trying out. Usually you have some kind of like hook or some kind of like gameplay thing that you've been given to, like, you know, you might be like, try to make a swoop level that involves electricity or something because this is happening in the story at the time. So you'll make a bunch of gameplays and enemies and all these sorts of things that that kind of involves that, and then, you know, the director will probably be like, I like it, this, and this, and then you kind of take that and work it into a grey box.
What do you think of like all of these, because this is public information, all the private servers that exist that people are able to play on, right? Ever since the shutdown, they're able to play on like Beacon, Refresh. They're able to play all the old levels that used to be on the game. But are you able to share what you think about that specifically? I
mean, I guess the main thing is just I'm still really like touched, and like I love that people love LVP so much, and like I love that, you know, they still want to create and they still want to kind of share and share with each other and what they've been making. I you know, there's still Discord servers and stuff going really strong. So, you know, all the power to them. Like, you know, if there's still people wanting to do that, then I'm all for it. It's really nice that, you know, it's still, after so long. I mean, what's it been now? 10, 11 years. Like, yeah, after so long that people still want to be playing it. Like, that's really nice.
When did Sumo leave LittleBigPlanet 3?
I actually don't know the situation with what happened with when all the kind of server stuff happened with, you know, trying to keep it going and kind of fixing things. I have no idea who was even working on that. I'm not even, I have to assume it was someone at Sumo, but it could have also just been someone at PlayStation that was handling it. I know that obviously Steven was kind of like overseeing it and things, but yeah, it was no one on any team that I was working on that was doing any of that. So yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay.
But in terms of like live development, it was probably mid 2016. So
Right. No, that's good to know, actually. I think a lot of people didn't know that. Let's move on to a lighter question, maybe something that will bring up, hopefully, some good memories. When did you receive the LittleBigPlanet crown, and how?
Oh, I think it was when I was nominated for a Saki, which I think probably was like 2009 maybe. I think it was like this. Was it maybe the first Saki, maybe the second one? I'm not sure, but no, I did a level series, or I was always obsessed. I mean, I said it last time, but like I was kind of obsessed with really trying to make official content. Like I loved the idea of making my own story mode, which looking back is obviously kind of an insane for, what was I, 16, like just doing it on my own, like an official story mode obviously takes a giant team of people. So, but I loved planning. I mean, going back to that age, I loved, for instance, outside of LittleBigPlanet, but I kind of planned out my own. I was a big fan of Pokemon, and I'd kind of planned my own Pokedex and that sort of thing, like, fake Pokemon and things like that. Like I'd loved a spreadsheet and I loved planning. And so I kind of had a big story mode and all the levels planned out in a big spreadsheet. And part of that was basically I think it was I did an introduction and 3, I think, story mode and some mini games. And I published all of that, I think, at once. And it was nominated for a Saki, so I think it was best story, and it was trying to tell a story, like a big story, way more complicated than like the original LittleBigPlanet games was. So I did all sorts of bizarre things there, like trying to tell stories. I was pretty proud of what I did, but yeah, it was just the introduction, and then the 3 levels were all sort of like, I guess it was kind of Metropolis themed, but it was trying to be like almost like underground city type thing. And yeah, it got a nomination, but it didn't win. I can't remember who actually won that year, but because of that nomination, I got my crown. I think that's how I got it. But yeah, so I've had it for a long time.
What is a fun fact that people probably don't know about LittleBigPlanet that you'd like to share?
Oh my gosh, that's a big question. A fun fact that people might not know about LittleBigPlanet. Wow. Well, I guess fun fact is that the second context contest that I did was based on a level that we had to cut from the LittleBigPlanet 3 story mode. It was internally called the Fickle Mistress, which was supposed to be a spaceship. And yeah, so the gravity zones and everything from that that was in the second contest level was all recreated from I think I used a video online of someone that had found a recording of it. And yeah, I had to remake the whole thing. The main thing about that though was if you managed to find a recording of it, my now creative director, Jack, I think he made that level. And actually, if you look at it, it's a kind of a mess. I actually went back, recreated the mess, and then basically did another level design pass on it to make it like actually make sense. There's a lot of instances in that level where the level will sort of turn back on itself, or there will just be like loads of really like floating geometry that's not connected to anything. and it was kind of a big task to like make it make sense. I had to make quite considerable changes. If you watch a playthrough of the grey box I did for it, and then I guess an alpha video of it, all of the content is the same, but it's quite considerably changed in structure. It was an interesting creative challenge to take something that technically was already made and kind of remake it, but it was cool. I really enjoyed doing it. So, and it was a nice nostalgic throwback because another unknown,
Yeah.
but I think he's called that level used to have, and I'm pretty sure everyone on the team would say it, but the best non-used music track in that in that level, and I think it was it's called Life Universe. I think it's by someone called Detective Brian. I think I'm not wrong in saying that. I can look it up very briefly to double check.
Sure. Yeah.
But
sure thing.
Let me go cut here. Life Universe Detective Brian. Yes, I'm not wrong. So yeah. Okay, go back. So yeah. But it was an absolute banger of a track that never made it in the final game, and I'm really sad about that because it's a really cool track. But that the first version of the Fickle Mistress used that track, and yeah, so that is that fun? I don't know, but that's something that maybe people don't know.
That's awesome. No, that's really awesome. I didn't know about that track, so I think that definitely was.
Go give it a listen. Support Detective Brian. Their music's really cool. That album in particular is very LBP. I'd love if we ever. I mean, if there ever miraculously was another LBP, I'd love for his work to get in.
Detective Brian. Wow,
yeah,
that's awesome. Neat. Do you have to know why the jump sound for Sackboy was changed in LittleBigPlanet 3? I don't know if you ever noticed, but when you played Game 2, the jump sound was deeper.
So if you play an LBP3 level, like a community level created in LBP3 or a story mode level, he will jump differently than if you play a community level from LBP1 or LBP2. So his jump is less floaty in LBP3. I wonder if the fact that I wonder if the sound effect change was an accidental effect of that, because I know that the jump sound effect technology is that basically it changes dynamically depending on the softness or hardness of the jump. So maybe it was a change that was caused by that.
Do you happen to know who chose LittleBigPlanet 3's songs?
That would be it was a guy called Jay Waters, who was our audio director. He was part of the audio team. I don't know if he chose them solely or if it was kind of a big team effort. I do remember, though, that I was the one that suggested using, is it called Shugo? Basically the one that we used for the announcement trailer, Shugo Tokumaru. Yeah, I think there was a mail going around the office asking for suggestions. And I really liked his work. Ironically, you can find, if you search my name, I think, an LBP showreel, you can find my showreel that I used to get a job at Sumo. I sent them a showreel of the stuff that I'd made. And I used Shugo, it was a different song called Katachi, that I really liked. He's got loads of great songs. I think I suggested Katachi. He had a song called Decorate that I really love. And then Rumhi, which I think is the one we ended up using. But yeah, I loved his work. And so I got my job at Sumo using his work, and then I passed him on again to use for the reveal trailer. So yeah, I guess there was, a collaborative effort then, because they took my suggestion. But I think a lot of the tracks and a lot of the thing can be put down to the audio department.
What did you love most about Little Big Planet 2?
Wow. I mean, I just thought it made so many good calls in terms of like how to expand LP1. I think, like, I think it did a really good job of like blending that line between like keeping things still feeling very Little Big Planet, but like I don't think it strayed too far away from like the kind of still the physicsy stuff that I think was kind of lost a bit with Little Big Planet 3. I think with the layering system and stuff, with all the extra stuff that was added, we faked a lot of things, and I think that took something away from the kind of more physical nature of LBP1 and 2. I mean, you could obviously do a load of non-physical things in LP2 as well, but yeah, I think yeah, just the controlinator, all of that kind of stuff, like all the kind of tweakers and the kind of the in-out mover and all that sort of stuff. I mean, I just think there was a really good expansion of the tool set to really like it just felt so powerful compared to LPP1. Yeah, I think I'd go with that. Yeah, I just think it felt really polished, and I think it felt like a really, really solid, like it was just, it was the right way to push the game, push the franchise forward, I think. Yeah.
Can you talk about the origin of that cardboard cutout of Sackboy on that shelf behind you?
I actually got that from Tarsia. Tarsia had a cupboard in their office that was basically just full of every single costume in cardboard cutout form. So I've actually got another one. You can't see it, but I've got one of the Uncharted 3 Nathan Drake costume over on my wall over there. But basically, when I left Tarsia, I don't know if it was just when everyone left, but they just were like, go into the thing and pick two of whichever you want. So I picked those two. I've got, there we go. Oh, I've got a wall. I've got a wall of like, I bought like fan art and things for, like fan art of LVP or Sackboy related things off like people's Etsy's and things. And I've got some gifts from, I met up with some people from a workshop like last year, and they gave me some really nice, I've got like a keychain and like some postcards and things that I've got up on the wall. But I kind of balanced a lot of these on the frames that are next to it. So I got this one and that one. But I would have loved to have some more, but they only let me take two. So Tarsia worked really closely with The Station. The Station was also a Swedish company. So I think they had kind of a good relationship with Tarsia, which obviously was also in Malmo in Sweden. So I think the fact that Tarsia, The Station were both reporting to XDev, there was something going on there where Tarsia must have like gotten every single costume in cardboard cutout form, and that's why they had so many. They were just kind of everywhere in the office. But yeah, that must have been it. Like, yeah, because Station were awesome. So it was always really cool seeing new concepts and everything coming in for new DLC and stuff. They always, Station were amazing. They knocked everything out of the park. I remember like when I was in Sweden working at Tarsia, I remember talking to some of the people that had come across from Sumo, and they were talking about LPP3 being in production, and I was like, what? That's amazing. And but yeah, seeing the initial concepts of all the like, I think the first concepts I saw were the Explorer, the default costume, the Explorer costume, and the Red Riding Hood costume. I remember seeing the first concepts of them coming in, and I was like, oh my God, it's happening, LPP3 is happening. And that, yeah. But yeah, Station were great at doing all those costumes.
Did you have to do any graphic design work for it? Did you end up like helping out with marketing, developing in-game, like, I don't know, store assets, picture assets, any relevant to that?
I didn't do store assets, but I did do like DLC content. So I did a lot of sticker work. That was a big thing. I did stickers on pretty much all the LBP3 level packs. So like, I remember we got the first draft of the Back to the Future pack from Tarsier. Tarsier did the first draft of that, and then it was given to Sumo, and we like expanded it with loads of new assets, and I did a load of stickers for that. I was really proud of the fact I did the Marty McFly, I basically did a full puppet like of all the different pieces. That was really cool. That was kind of my first LBP character that I did. And yeah, I did a bunch on Journey Home. I did costume design on Journey Home. So I worked with the station. They were the ones that brought my insane costume concepts to life. Then I did, I did all of them. I did the Tiki pack, the Seaside one. But yeah, I didn't really do any like store-based stuff like UI kind of stuff. I did mostly like in-game assets and the costumes and stuff.
Let's more so talk about some of the dev-only tools. Can you talk about some of those for like level creation, stuff like that?
I guess there was certain things, like there was the pin giver and stuff like that, where we used to award, when you did certain things in levels and things. I guess there was also like, that's not really a tool, but I was going to say in terms of how we inputted like magic mouth lines of dialogue and stuff like that. That was all done through like something called lamb strings, but that was kind of using the same system, kind of. But yeah, there wasn't really anything that we ended up. I think there was a lot of tools that were cut, but I don't know if I would class them as dev only because we didn't really use them that much. The one thing that I kind of remember Stephen using a lot, which I didn't understand, was something called the filter tool. I don't know if that ever ended. It must have ended up in some capacity being used, because I remember it being used quite a lot. Again, Stevie Big Guns. Sorry, I mean instead of Steven is spelled Stevie Big Guns, and we had a couple of really amazing tech related people, level designers that went on to be tech designers that were so technically minded. There's a guy called Paul he still works at Sumo. He's amazing, and but they would use a tool called the filter tool, and it was something to do with like changing how signal values worked. It would like take in a signal value and pump one out that was tweaked slightly, and I never really understood how it worked, but I think it ended up being used in more complex things like boss fights and stuff, but I could never figure out what it was for.
But about the PC editor, is there anything you can talk about with that since the last interview that maybe, I don't know, was a bit interesting about it, a bit quirky when designing levels inside of it? I know you guys didn't use it a whole lot, but...
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I never tried because, as I said, it was sort of this like bizarre enigma of a thing that was like, it was like the most complicated puzzle. It had so many quirks and weird workarounds, and like, it was one of those things that I remember when I first started at Sumo, I joined a small team of people that were all first timers. So I was a new level designer, had new artists and stuff, and just working with them, like I would be like, oh, can you just make sure that this glass material, when you stand on it, it makes a glass sound? Like all these sorts of things are stuff that are done within the PC editor, but they're always like hidden behind so many like, I don't know, like drop down boxes and all these sorts of things. Like it was really a tool, a kind of this bizarre tool that was made by a certain group of people to be used by a certain group of people. And it was like, so it wasn't really accessible for new people. And as I said, I was only really able to kind of, a lot of the later DLC packs and stuff, I was the one that went through, and I always made sure that all the assets and stuff were, they had the right bevels and sounds and physics and all these sorts of things. And it was a real undertaking to really make sure that everything was right. Because it wasn't like amazing to use. It was very, very complicated. And but yeah, at first when I worked with those new people, I was like, I didn't understand that. I was like, I wasn't seeing the updates, and I wasn't seeing every new thing, every new assets and stuff was a bit broken. And I was like, I wasn't frustrated, but it was just sort of, I didn't really understand why. And like, it was only really until I actually started tackling it myself and like seeing the intricacies of it and why it was so complicated. But yeah, it was. I literally cannot imagine making a level in it. Yeah, I don't know if it was a case of that over the years it was changed, like its purpose was changed to be more of like asset management. So some of the actual like full level building stuff was changed or negated.
Can we go more into kind of the maybe merchandise aspect of things? Because I'm curious, did you ever receive like was there like a piece of merchandise or pieces of merchandise that you received while working on LittleBigPlanet that just absolutely blew your mind? Just crazy merch.
We didn't receive a lot of merch. Maybe we've got a few like t-shirts and things that were mainly like dev related. We never received like extra stuff. I mean, everything that you see behind me, I like bought myself. So yeah, we never really received a lot of stuff. We did get, oh, I don't think I can say that. I'm not sure. We basically we were gonna get custom controllers for PS5, and then we don't know what happened to them. They apparently were made, and then we never received them. So they might still be in a warehouse somewhere. But we did get a funny t-shirt instead, which was like Controller Gate or something. It was like 2023 Controller Gate or something, and it was like playing off the fact that we never received our controllers. But
do you happen to know, and I'm sure this was frustrating for a lot of people, because it was just such a simple thing, but why did moving levels on LittleBigPlanet 3 break on LittleBigPlanet 2 or 1?
So that's because it's taking the level and republishing it technically. So it turns it into an LBP3 level. So basically, like, this is why there can't really ever be an LBP4, but like, everything you ever add in a new game is going to break something else. So the backwards compatibility is so hard, particularly when you add new things, you change like layering systems, you change Sackboy's physics, you change all of these different things. But like, basically, I think it was the case that if you moved a level, it technically wouldn't be an LBP2 or an LBP1 level anymore. It would be an LBP3 level. So everything that came with that, all the kind of changes, all the different things, kind of technically would break certain things. It might break emitters. It might break how things were kind of layered. It might break if objects were referenced and stuff, like collected objects and things like that. Like, yeah, it was kind of a mess. So, but as I said, it was just the nature of, we've said before, like game on a game on a game. And it's kind of proof that, like, you know, any form of backwards compatibility for LPP and LPP4 would be nigh impossible.
Did you guys ever have any plans on adding more level slots to your Earth?
I don't think in LPP3 it wasn't ever something that was discussed. Yeah, no, I don't think it was ever. I don't think it was a plan in LPP3. I think it was just something, because there was wasn't it something that you could put, you could have like multiple adventures and each adventure had loads of levels in it. So it was kind of like it kind of expanded the amount of levels you could have anyway, right? Was that it?
I think so. Yeah.
So you could have it an infinite, well, not infinite, but you could have a lot more levels if you used all your adventure slots, I think. But in terms of like the base amount of levels you could publish, I don't think that was the case.
Well, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that was Mark Hall. Again, it was an absolute pleasure having you on for a part 2. And, if the opportunity arises, we'll be glad to do a part 3 with you, or part 4.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And of course, your insights into Little Big Planet's level design, the overall just sort of things that ended up happening with Little Big Planet 3 and everything in between. It was wonderful to hear what you had to say about that. And stay tuned, guys, because we will be posting more interviews over the next few weeks. But yeah, stay tuned, and we'll see you next time. Peace.